We're here to see Betsy Foldes Meiman. She's a voiceover actress who's not only excellent at doing voiceover, she uses her voice for change. I'm gonna open this door and knock on this door. Hi! Hi, how are you? Oh gosh, so good to see you.
You too, you look great.
All right, let's go.
All right, so favorite thing in my studio. This is my favorite thing in my studio, in my entire house. My son wanted to draw on the wall, and we're like, go ahead. And this is what he drew. And he was 12. No, 10, because he's 15 now. So we moved in 5 years ago. Yeah, so and this is what he drew, and he drew it like in 20 minutes on his wall. And it will, if we ever move out of this house, it's coming with me. I'm taking this wall with me.
Perfect. Aww.
I'm Betsy Foldes Meiman, and this is my take. Where were we?
Let's just see, do you have a morning routine to get you ready and warmed up in the morning?
Well, yeah, I have a 15-year-old. We'll make breakfast, we walk to school, we come back. So by that time, I'm kind of like up and moving around, but still not ready to actually do work because I'm a procrastinator by nature. An efficient one, but I procrastinate. And so, I'll make a cup of coffee, read the news, and then, when I can no longer avoid it, I get into the studio and I do some work. I set up some water, I set up some, whatever, and I take a moment to recalibrate. And then I do it. And the funny part is there's that procrastination because I'm putting off whatever project I have to work on. But then once I'm in the booth, I don't want to leave it. But it's that moment, it's like that switch, because it's such an intimate thing when you're working on it in the booth that you just have to be ready. You have to be ready to let the day go. A few of the things I've done that you might know my voice from. This week with George Stephanopoulos, ABC News. I did a lot of promo in the earlier part of my career in New York, so Animal Planet and Discovery and what else? Full Frontal Fashion were shows that I did on a weekly basis. Then a lot of commercials, ton of commercials, Snackwells and what else? I can't remember, Kellogg's. I did a lot of narration like HGTV, so I did shows on that, Real Simple Real Life, which was on, I think that was HGTV. Oh yeah, and a lot of video games. A lot of people know me from BioShock. I was Rosebud. Oh, what did we take the neighbor's baby instead? My baby. My baby. And then sing like a crazy verse of Amazing Grace. So but it's so much fun to do because the characters are so outlandish, and that is one part of the industry that will let me be things that I am so far from. When I get those auditions, especially when they allow you to pick them, I will pick the 3 farthest things from myself, just as a chance to play and a chance to stretch and to do those things. And so, when I get roles, it's like, bosomy victims or villains or things like that. And it's really fun to do. So I do like it for that.
Do you have other jobs besides voiceover jobs?
No, I don't have other, this is where I make my money. Mm-hmm. But I started a nonprofit, and it's called Connectopod. That grew out of volunteering podcast because I was doing up at Mend in Pacoima. It's a poverty center, and it was an after-school thing. And I would go in and tutor kids, and so I went up there and I did it every Tuesday for 4 years, and I started working with these kids, and they were just great. And I was really trying to just offer them a different way to learn and to kind of build their own curiosity. It's a just difficult climate to learn in. And so when I brought my equipment in, they were all psyched to work on it and see what they could do. And so I thought, let's do a podcast and we'll create this show. And so we worked with the kids. I worked with the kids, and we did the simple start was just jokes. Let's tell jokes, and then what are you interested in? Well, let's write. How do you research it? How do you write it? How do you then perform it? How do you edit it? And so they would each it grew into that they would each create their own segments. And then I would work with them to kind of just bring out their own curiosity and their confidence so that they could go after what they wanted to do. And it was kind of it's voiceover, and it's also a background in acting, taking risks and opening yourself up and all those things, because I really wanted these kids to see that, there's a big wide world out there, and this is really tight and difficult right now. But if they reach out, they can create a different life for themselves. They have a point of view, it matters, it can be powerful, it can be funny, it can be all of those different things. And so that's what we that we worked on, and we turned it into a podcast, and we started reaching out and interviewing people, and then a youth coordinator there came on who was really supportive of the program. Her name is Andrea Lopez, and she's my partner when she came to me and said, let's do this for real. So we created a curriculum based on everything that we've been doing there, and we just turned nonprofit last Friday, 2 weeks ago. We got our nonprofit status. So we've been doing Connectopod as an actual, its own entity since last May. And we've got some exciting projects coming up, and we're teaching, we're going to use the curriculum at Haskell STEAM Magnet for kids with learning disabilities. And we're going to try it out there and see how that works with them. And our goal is to bring this to kids that can't afford it, that need a voice, that don't have a voice, or have some other challenge that they need to work through, and be able to bring this program to them. And then have them become correspondents on the show. So the correspondents on the show now are the kids that I've been working with for the last couple of years. And we want to, after the kids go through a program like this, then they can join. Dobie's ego. My cat. Like the skills that voiceover do, that voiceover gives you, you know, and being able to reach out. And we say reach out, speak out, and turn needing into leading, right? We have all these ways to communicate, but how do we really communicate with each other? How do you reach somebody? How do you make something important? How do you make something, how do you represent yourself? And so that's what we're trying to do with them. And we just interviewed a Ugandan priest, and he's going back to Uganda, and we have these kits. We call them Reporter on the Go kits, and it's got an Apogee mic and old iPhones, and he's going to take those back with him to Uganda, and we're teaching him our program and all the games that we've created to go with it, and he's going to teach on the ground. We're going to teach via Skype, and then those kids are going to come on as reporters. So it's kind of like, it's like empowerment, you know, like how can you make things better? You can either sit there and deal with it, or you can affect it and you can lead. Because when you're leading, you don't have time to think about your own crap. When everything started happening with the refugees, we found another organization in Malaysia that deals with Muslim refugees. So from the Middle East and from Africa, and they go there, and it's an after-school program and a family center there that deals with education and not letting it slip while all of these people are being relocated. And so we got in touch with the youth coordinator there, and their kids Skyped with our kids, and we had like it was great because they were so similar. It was like unbelievable. They all spoke English in varying degrees, and they all liked the same things. They all liked the same YouTube stars. They all liked the same food. It was stunning. It was just really stunning. And so that's our goal, is just to keep reaching out, so to connect kids to their own power, to connect them to each other, to their community. So we found out today that one of the organizations that we approached that we were interested in is the Social Justice League Institute, Social Justice Learning Institute, and they're in Inglewood. And they have a program called Young Scholars, and it's young black men who are in their teens. And they do these amazing projects, like they went around door to door and talking to people in their community, and he said, how can we talk to the police? How can we create this to be a better relationship? And then they had a town hall, and the police came, and they did this for their neighborhood. And they do all kinds of projects like that. They have music, and they have just really interesting ways to empower this community. And so we approached them, and it looks like we're going to work with them over the summer. And it's interesting for me because it's going to be late teen and college age, which I've never worked with before. So we're going to try and work with them and podcast with them over a 5-week program this summer. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm really excited to work with them because they're phenomenal. Years ago, like way years ago, at Film Forum in New York, Bruce Goldstein did this really great project. It was the Donovan Affair. It was Frank Capra's first talkie, and the soundtrack was lost. So he and a group, they recreated the script, and we did it live. We did it live at Film Forum, and I had several characters that I did in that. And so they recorded that and kept the soundtrack and put it in the Smithsonian. But it's funny that you should say that because it's coming back around. And so there might be another performance of it. They used to do like the 1950s gimmick films, right? So the Vincent Price things. There was one called the Tingler, right? And the Tingler was when they did it originally in the 50s at the theater, they would have a prop and someone would say, oh my God, the theater was shut down, and then they would fakely shut down the movie like it looked like it was crackling, and then the thing was loose in the theater and somebody would start screaming and everybody would start screaming, and that was the thing. So I was the plant for that. Bruce he made this Tingler thing out of duct tape and everything else, and I hid it under a thing of popcorn, and when the film would go down, I would like throw my popcorn and scream, ah! I'd like start running around with the Tingler. So it was a lot of fun. The voiceover stuff that I do for a living, I don't normally do from home. So I'll go into the studio. Like I've been narrating books this year, which I really love because it's a real challenge. Like I just finished Blue Dreams, and it was all psychopharmacology. So it was something that, if you put me in a room and pay me to read for 8 hours, 6 hours, it's like a dream job for me, sitting in the dark with just one other person. And it's great because you get into a flow, but it's a much harder job than people expect. Like everybody wants to narrate books. I don't know if you've done it or not, but I was quite, and I knew what was involved, and I was kind of surprised at the sheer physical demand of that. Not only of like this, but you're sitting in one position for 6 hours, and you're reading from an iPad, right? So you've got that strain on your eyes, you've got this strain on your body because you can't make any noise, and then you've got the vocal quality of speaking straight for 6 hours, with no breaks. And so it's a really physically demanding job, but there's also this wonderful thing that happens with it where you just get into a zone, and you're like, it's like the words become your own. And so I get to co-opt these really intelligent authors, and like it's my own thoughts, and and speaking it. So it's a really wonderful job. And there's one book that I absolutely love that I want to mention. It's called Unmentionable by Therese O'Neill, and it's about Victorian women. And it was just so funny and so things that I just didn't know. And it was such a feminist manifesto without being a feminist manifesto, and it was wonderful. But that was one where I really got to be involved with the author a little bit. She called and gave direction, and it was great. I find that I've been given, like usually when I get them, they're within a day or two, that I have to go and read it. So that's, to read a 400-page book in 2 days with life as it is, I just don't have the time. So no, I go in and wing it. And I've not been offered the option to do it from my studio. I mean, I could. I have the same microphone, and I have, but I don't know how that would work. I've never done that. I've been lucky enough to not, to be invited into the studio to do it, because when you work with the editor, he's following for quality control, making sure you're getting every word and getting everything's understandable. I couldn't imagine doing that job and reading. It's just that's two different hats and two completely different heads. So, I've been lucky enough to not have to do that, but, I could do it. The tree I had in the garden as a child, my beech tree, I used to climb up there and spend hours. I took my homework up there, my books. I went up there if I was sad. And it just felt very good to be up there, among the green leaves and the birds and the sky. Jane Goodall.